Welcome back to part 3 of building the first Exocart go-kart 8th gen. The last one I showed you, I got all this rear stuff cut off. Still haven't done any more with this back here yet, which we'll get to eventually. This one though, we're going to start cutting up the front and get all of this off that I don't need. Mainly we're going to cut across right along basically this line to the front, same across the top here. We'll come down from this corner pretty straight so that I can run the tube kind of right up against it, weld this to the tube, have some more structural support for the strut mount, and then all of this is the top piece, and then up to here is going to come off. I'm going to keep the factory frame rails where the engine mounts to, and I think we're going to cut them kind of across here, maybe angle it down. Don't know, doesn't matter yet. And then we'll keep the lower support here for the radiator, and then the cage itself will come in front of that, so that that's not the first impact point if anything does happen and it does get impacted. Start with cutting this up here and kind of go from there. So you're on a time lapse as we're cutting this up, and hopefully not cut myself with little slivers of metal that are all over this car from all the grinding. That came off a lot easier than I initially thought it would. Let me just cut across here. So you still need to sand it down, smooth it out, all that good stuff. Cut across, cut down, cut right along the seam here, right along the seam here, cut up here, cut down here, and it's off. Now I need to do the same to that side, but see, this has been the easiest part so far, is cutting this. Other than like right here is kind of thick, but as long as you go up top and then come back down, you can get the right angle to go through here and then right down the seam. Pleasantly surprised how easy that corner was. Let's get this side off, and then we'll get this all ground down to where I want it. Some of this stuff's gonna get like spot weld drilled out. Like there's some spot welds here that is holding the rest of this on. I'll spot weld drill those out. That'll be easier than grinding all of that off. Same with, I think this I can just spot weld drill it out as well. Yeah, or just cut it down flat. Easy enough. But we'll get that done, and I'll bring you in once I have the whole front end cleaned up. And front end is cut up. What is here is staying. So I'll have the lower bracket to mount the radiator into. I could shave, technically I could shave this here where the AC condenser goes. AC is not going back in the car, but probably just leave those because whatever. It's not that big of a deal to save a couple of ounces of metal. Same on this side. Cut here, down the seam there, across this seam here, same here. So it's all cleaned up already on this side, and on this side, this will probably end up getting boxed in here, but we'll see. This will get boxed in there, and then the tubes, I'm basically going to mimic the same shape of what was already there. I've got them sitting over here. Stupid hood. So I can mimic the shape of where they were and get them in the same area as factory so that you can still maybe, hopefully, kind of recognize what car it is. Although I don't know what I'm going to do with the headlights and taillights yet. I may go with something simple that is easier to mount up than the factory ones, especially with the taillights. The headlights, I'm not sure on yet, but we'll get to that when we get to that. The fuel tank needs to come out. I already got the straps off. Taking the straps off because this car is 20 years old. That sucked. So the rear bolts go right here. There's supposed to be a nut that is welded on to the back there on both of these. They were so rusted that I got like a quarter of a turn on each, and it snapped the welds on both of those nuts. So that was fun. I have two options on that, and I'll probably go with the first option, which is just throwing a nutsert in there with a slightly smaller bolt, or I don't use them at all. Cut out some more of this and frame in a fuel cell, but I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll see as the project moves along, because I have a couple of ideas on what I want to do with the car. One of the ideas requires me to not have the factory fuel tank in there anyways, but that's a very expensive idea. That's $25,000. So, maybe down the line. Took a little break from pulling the gas tank. As you can see over there, it's all cleaned up for the most part. There's a lot of glass on the floor from moving the roof around and actually cutting it in half long ways. So like down the car this way, so I could fit it in the back of my dad's truck and get all of that to the scrapyard. This includes some other stuff from some of the other cars here, but you can see here, pulled 471 pounds out of the car. I would guess about 420, 430 of it is from this car alone, with the body panels and everything. There's a hood from that car, a trunk from, actually the trunk was from this car. I had two hoods. So one of the hoods was from this car, the trunk was from this car, and then I had the hood from that car and some like power steering pumps and alternators and other stuff from other motors that were just junk laying around that I don't need anymore. So I would say, yeah, right around between 420 and 430 pounds is what I've cut off of the car so far. There's not a whole lot more cutting I'm going to be doing, so that should be realistically what's been pulled off of the car. How much the cage weighed, I don't know, or is going to weigh, I don't know. But it also doesn't include the other 280 pounds out of the car that I've already pulled of wiring, sound deadening, seam sealer, all the seam sealer that was up here that I cut off to cut these, seam sealer along the bottom edges, and some more in the trunk area. So if I had to do a rough estimate of everything I've pulled off of this car, I would say we're at somewhere around 750 pounds total that's been pulled off. So I think the factory weight on these is around 2,800, but honestly, I haven't looked it up in a long time, and I don't really care to Google it that much right now anyways. So I would guess we're really close right now to the 2,000 pound mark with, once I get, the motor and transmission and cage on it, I'm going to guess somewhere around the 2,200, maybe 2,300 pound mark with the cage. Honestly, it's been a while since I did a clip on this car, so I don't remember where I left off at. But got the coilovers on from this car. They're not going to be used on the car. They're just going to be put in so that I can get the car on the ground eventually. And they'll be swapped out for something much better. So I get the front knuckles on with the Brembo brakes, which are way back there in the corner on a shelf. Main reason these aren't going to be used at all for driving this thing once it is done is this one is bent. As you can see, it comes down here straight and then kicks out. That happened obviously when this thing got wrecked. So it is what it is. It's fine enough to put it on the ground and be able to move it around as needed until I get the coilovers I want to put on the car, but that's $2,200-$2,300, something like that, that I just don't have right now to drop on coilovers. That, and I've got other stuff I need to do to this thing first to even get to the point where I can drive it. So kind of need to get the motor all put back together and in the car and the wiring redone and all of that good stuff. But I did get the welding setup all set up. I went and got a C25 150 tank. Couldn't find the regulator and hose that came with the Miller when I got it, probably 16 years ago. So went to Harbor Freight, got a $80 regulator, an $18 hose off of Amazon, and she's running good. I did do some practice welds because I haven't done shielded gas wire. No, Jesus. I just had an aneurysm there apparently. I haven't done shielded gas MIG welding before, so grabbed a couple pieces of scrap here. Did some practice welds. Some of them turned out really good. There's some right in here that just look great, and there's others that are absolutely horrible. So we're gonna keep practicing. I did do a couple of welds on the car already, mainly because, I need to practice, obviously, but I was sick of having clamps just holding all like 4 sheets of metal here together. I got this all welded up right here, and then the same on the other side. Obviously I went through and I ground it down because that's not a weld, that's smooth out. But it's holding. It's nice and solid from what I can tell. There's a couple little spots where I could fill in the weld, but I'm not too worried about that. So far so good on that, on the welding. But obviously as I do it more, hopefully I'll get better. I would assume, I would get better with more practice. But yeah, I need to get the wiring harness out, which all I need to do for that is pull this cap here, or just pull the harness out of that cap still, and then I can have the harness out of the way. So I gotta drop the gas tank. I think that's actually where I left off in the last clip, is pulling the gas tank. Haven't fully pulled it yet, but it's ready to drop. I just haven't got a bunch of stuff in the way that I just haven't felt like moving to do it. And that's kind of where we're at this point. So I'm gonna get the gas tank out finally. I'll get the rear suspension all put back together as best I can, obviously with the bent coilover. Get the front knuckles on, and then I'm just gonna use the wheels that I had on Enigma over there to put it on the ground to start with. rear end is together as best it can be right now, obviously with the bent strut. But I got both of the camber arms set to the same length right now. Not sure how much camber it is. If I had to guess, it'd say around 1.5, maybe 2 degrees negative. But it's not the 7 like it was on that car, or 6.5 that it was on that car. Obviously, still have the bent strut here, but that's fine for now, just to be able to get on the ground. So, starting to, yeah, I like how that looks right now. So, let's go next up front here. You see, I already have the coilovers on there. I need to grab the knuckles with the Brembo calipers and rotors on there and throw those on the front. Then we can get the wheels on the front and put this on the ground just to get an idea of what she's going to look like. Obviously, sans cage, but minor details for right now. I just want to get a general idea of how she's going to look. Front suspension and brakes are on, as well as the wheels. These wheels will not stay on this car. 2 reasons. It's not the wheel I'm going to put on it. I wasn't planning on running it to begin with, but with the shape of the wheel and the offset and everything, I've got like a 12 mil spacer or 8 mil spacer on here to clear the Brembos on both sides. Don't have outer tie rods on here, so the wheel just kind of does what it does. I'm gonna leave them pointed in so it's not up against back here as I put it down. But front has wheels now and suspension, so let's get it on the ground and just get a kind of first look at somewhat what she's gonna look like. Well, I had it on the ground, forgot to do any video of it. She is extremely light. I had it on the ground. Obviously there's no brakes hooked up or anything right now, but I could move it with one finger and yeah, no problem. Not a big deal. Did get the dash bar back in. Not really that hard. A lot of this stuff's going to come off. I'm pretty sure I don't need any of this stuff over here other than the mounting point to the side. All this stuff in the middle can come off. All these brackets here. Some of the stuff does need to stay. This back here is for the fuse box. And obviously this piece here for the rest of the steering column. And then there's a couple brackets on the back side. This one I think is for the brake pedal. There's another one that gets mounted back here somewhere for the clutch pedal. So everything else will get cut off though that is not needed, to shave again as much weight as possible. I'm pretty sure this can go, this can go, I know that can go because that's my radio frame, and I'm pretty sure all of that stuff on that side can go as well. I think once I get this cut off as much as I can, still got to get this portion of the window frame off, get these out. This again, still just been too lazy to spot weld drill all these out and clean it up. It's coming along nicely. Obviously there's no wiring in the car at all now, other than like the wheel speed sensors that are still back here, but the portion that goes to the interior harness is out. All that's gone. Everything up front's gone, other than power steering rack. Hope you all enjoyed. See you next time.